Richelle Ahlvers is Storage Technology Enablement Architect at Intel, and she promotes and drives the enablement of new technologies and standard strategies. She's spent over 25 years in enterprise R&D teams in a variety of roles, leading the architecture, design, and development of storage array software, storage management software, user experience projects, including mobility, developing new storage industry categories, including SAN management, storage grid, and cloud, and storage technology portfolio solutions. Richelle's been engaged with industry standards initiatives for many years now. I've known her for probably close to a decade. She's been very involved in the Storage Network Industry Association, the MDTF, the NVMe organization, the newly formed UCIe with chiplets, and she's vice chair of the SNIA Board of Directors, chair of the Storage Management Initiative, leads the technical working group in that area of storage management, and development of the Swordfish Scalable Storage Management API. She served on the SNIA Technical Council Chair. It's been engaged across the breadth of technologies that this Storage Network Industry Association addresses. And she's also served on the DMTF Board of Directors as their VP of Finance. Please welcome Richelle Ahlvers.
Oh, there it is again. Thanks. So what I'm going to talk a little bit about today is a couple of things, one of which is just kind of give a little bit of background as to a bunch of the storage technology trends that SNIA is taking a look at today, and others in the industry really from a standards perspective, and then talk a little bit about how SNIA is adapting to deal with some of these trends that are going on. So we'll talk a little bit and jump in here. First, let's talk a little bit about what's going on with cloud. There's really been a shift to talking about hybrid cloud, and from hybrid cloud to multi-cloud. So one of the things we're looking at doing is, what do we do about multi-cloud? So yes, hybrid cloud's been around for a while, but with multi-cloud, there's really great opportunities from a standards-based perspective to move data from one cloud to another, whether it's private cloud or public cloud. So all of these I'm going to touch on really quick here. Next key area you've probably been hearing a lot about both here and over the last few years is computational storage. So for those of you that may not be super familiar with what this really is taking that computation capabilities away from the CPU and co-locating it down next to the data for specific workloads. It's really fascinating, and there's several vendors out on the show floor here that can talk to you in more detail about some of the specific workloads that they're addressing there. But this is an area that we're dealing with in SNIA quite extensively, as well as partnering with some other organizations like NVM Express to develop standards and solutions about. We have the computational storage APIs, computational storage architectures within SNIA to deal with this. Some other areas we're looking at, data acceleration, right? This is an area that we've typically seen a lot of movement, memory-to-memory transfers in storage. However, we see vendors now building custom accelerators. So that's an area that's ripe for dealing with standardization. So we have standardization activities going on, such as developing the SDXI, standard within SNIA, but there's also opportunities for additional software layers and additional software stacks to be developed around data acceleration. So there's a lot of potential work going on in this area. We also have, surprise, surprise, work going around CXL. There's 16 tracks at this event alone in the system architecture track on CXL. Right, tons of stuff going on here. There's a lot of focus initially on memory, but the byte to block transition alone leaves us ripe to say what's going on from a storage and from a data perspective. So there's a lot of conversation around in the storage industry about what should we do with CXL. So this is an area that SNIA is taking a look at as well, and every storage vendor is trying to understand what the implications are for CXL with their solutions. As you noted in Jay's introduction, there's a lot of manageability in my background, so I'll talk about those areas a little bit too. In manageability, there's actually a lot happening as well. So all these technologies, every single one of them has manageability implications as well as security implications. In storage fabrics, as you heard in the Western Digital presentation previously, there's a lot going on with NVMe and NVMe over fabrics. There's a lot going on with CXL. So there's a lot happening in storage fabric management as well. So we're seeing trends in the way people manage, moving from dedicated fabrics to shared fabrics. We're also seeing trends towards managing heterogeneous fabrics with consolidated manageability. So that's ripe for standardization activities. The next area is, you've probably heard this buzzword quite a bit as well, composable disaggregated infrastructures. This is a really interesting one for me because this is basically taking concepts that we've been using for years and years and years in the storage space, expanding pool-based resource management beyond storage. So anyone who tells you CDI is a new concept has never paid attention to what we've been doing in storage this entire time. But what CDI is really doing is taking all that pool-based management and applying it to the entire ecosystem. And so there's a couple of different ways that works. The little diagram shows you. But this is really, really fascinating because it's applying it across the entire environment. So one of the things you might have noticed as we talked a lot about these is there's a lot of stuff in here that's not really all that data or all that storage centric. What it is it's very data centric. So that's when we talked about previously here a little bit about talking about what SNIA is doing to react to and deal with all of these trends. When SNIA started, we started as a Storage Networking Industry Association. That was very focused on SANs. Over time, we evolved to deal with storage and expanded our scope to do that. And as we've noticed over the last few years, all of these initiatives that we've been talking about here in these technologies, what's really happened is we've realized we've expanded our scope again. So we're announcing that SNIA is no longer focusing exclusively on storage. We're now a data-centric organization. Our mission and vision have now been officially expanded to no longer focus exclusively on storage, but to focus on the handling and optimizing of data. That includes, of course, still continues to include everything we have been doing on data, or on storage, sorry, but to be more expansive and to cover all of the items that I've talked about that we've continued to do in these areas, but to be more data-centric. So our new tagline is now SNIA, the experts on data. So let's talk about what this really looks like. This covers all of these 6 areas: accelerate, protect, optimize infrastructure for. And yes, I realize this one is not a single word. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to get this down to a single word, and many, many hours of how do we get this one to be a single word failed. But we'll talk about what each one of these means. Then you get to storage. Storage is still a key portion here. Transport and format. So let's look at each one of these. When we talk about accelerate, you get to the 2 of the areas that I've already talked about: the data acceleration, computational storage, and then DPUs. We have work going on in DPUs and XPUs, acceleration. All of these areas all fall together. You may see technologies if you go to our new website, our updated website, that shows technologies in multiple areas. Today, I'm really just kind of highlighting areas that are kind of a primary. One of the things you might also notice is DPU as a good example here. Do we actually have a technical specification? No. What we do have is marketing, education, and investigation work. We also have technologies that we'll show here that fall into these that may be areas of partnership. SNIA doesn't do everything alone. What we do is we partner with a lot of other organizations, and I'll show you that at the end here. And we've recognized, you know, in many areas, we're trying to identify the holistic view of these areas and identify where we should be working and where we should partner with other organizations, where we should identify gaps and where we should fill in. So moving on ahead to protect. This really covers protect and secure. So all the security stuff falls in here, data protection. This covers everything about privacy as well. We have a data protection and privacy group that covers as well as storage security. So we have everything from specifications to data privacy committee. We have a lot of work in here. So education, marketing, specifications, lots of work that covers end-to-end on security and protection. Optimized infrastructure gets a little bit more interesting. Lots of stuff gets put into this bucket because this covers everything from manageability to green, to sustainability, to containers, to performance. Our IATA work falls into here, our I/O capture and test. So we have trace libraries showing real-world I/O workloads. Software-defined storage, lots of functionality fits into this category. We also cover a lot in the general storage area. So these are the basic representations of data on storage media. There's some new work going on in this area, such as our zone storage. Zone storage is an area where we have technical work going on in SNIA as well as partnering with the NVM Express organization. You can see some other fun things in here, stuff that's been going on a long time, as well as some other relatively new investigation areas such as DNA data storage. Moving on, we have our data transports. Our SFF organization covers SFF and DDSFF, connectors, form factors, huge part of the organization. And then we move on to formats. This includes everything from LTFS to file systems to our own CDMI reference management interface and reference implementation, which was just made an updated ISO standard as well. So it kind of gives you an overview of all of the different areas within SNIA and also some of the areas that we partner with. So just as a view, I've talked some about our partnerships. This just kind of highlights where some of those partnerships fall within the organization. One of the things you might see as we talk about some of the alliances here is if you're picking any of these out, if you're really detail oriented, you might notice that STAY is not listed up there. The SCSI Trade Association is no longer listed as an alliance partner. We have recently announced that the SCSI Trade Association is now a SNIA forum. So we announced that about a month and a half ago. So we have a presence here if anybody has had an opportunity to wander by and talk to them about that. So STAY has joined and is now a part of SNIA. All right, so that was a really quick overview of the new SNIA messaging. Welcome, and we have a booth out in the, it's booth 725 at the Open Standards Pavilion where you can come talk to us and our alliance partners and learn more about what's going on with SNIA. Thank you.
Thank you, Richelle.